wife and I will be celebrating our 31st wedding anniversary next week, and I'm a big fan of marriage. However, I want to make the case, I'd like to make the case for long-term engagement instead, especially at the country level, and that's what IFPRI has tried to do. So I want to talk about country program policy research and capacity strengthening. And this involves generating evidence, it involves building relationships over time, and it involves, of course, capacity strengthening. Okay, I'm not going to repeat what I said. I'm just going to keep going on the slides here. But you saw earlier that IFPRI has country programs, country offices throughout Africa, parts of Asia. And this represents a big way where IFPRI is involved on the ground, over time, building capacity, engaging with policymakers. So I want to talk about two of the countries that you've heard about throughout this day. And I think there's one good reason why you've heard so much about it. Well, one reason is because the policymakers in those countries have implemented big-time agricultural investments, policy changes, and worked very hard to improve food security in these countries. But the reason why IFPRI's been involved there is that IFPRI has made the effort, with the support of the donors, to be engaged over many years. And many years in this case means decades. And so I want to talk a little bit about who are the people that have been key to this engagement. So key in the Bangladesh program, we have Nurul Islam. Nurul, could you at least wave? Okay, that's Nurul, right? Nurul Islam has been with IFPRI since right around 1988. But he was the first deputy chairman of the Planning Commission in Bangladesh and has played a big role in keeping IFPRI involved in Bangladesh over these decades. If you look at the middle slide is IFPRI's first project in Bangladesh, where we had people on the ground, and this is this project led by Steve Hagblade in the middle. But you'll notice on the side of Steve Hagblade, the guy without the beard is actually Dr. Ahmed. And you've heard throughout the day Akhtar's contribution on food for education, and then much later now on women's empowerment, on the nutrition work, on our country program there currently. I can do this. Far right in the upper corner, none of you are going to be able to guess who that guy is, but he's Dr. Shahidur Rashid. And he's led our work with the Ag Transformation Agency in IFPRI. And so we've had capacity building happening in Bangladesh, people coming to IFPRI, highly trained, ending up passing on some of that experience and building capacity, working with colleagues in other countries. But the policy impact doesn't happen without key government officials and counterparts. And in the bottom left is former Secretary of Food Mahbub Kabir in Bangladesh. And during this big flood, 1998, they called it the flood of the century. Mahbub Kabir was Secretary of Food. IFPRI worked very closely with him at that time. And I saw personally how dedicated he was and what a difference he made. But he was somebody that we were working under him throughout that period. And then finally, in the bottom right is Raisa Ahmed, recently passed away, but he was a director of Markets and Structural Studies Division at IFPRI for many, many years, and helped guide all that work on Bangladesh in that period from the mid-'80s through 2001. We've got a similar story in Ethiopia. Again, long-term engagement. We have, many of you perhaps know Eleni Gabramedin, a former IFPRI senior research fellow. She worked in Ethiopia Strategy Support Program, and helped establish the Ethiopia Commodity Exchange, a major success. Once the commodity exchange was established, well, she left IFPRI. IFPRI isn't in the business of running commodity exchanges, but that research contributed to that innovation in institutions. The next slide over, you heard Ato Nwai Gebreab this morning. He's a senior economic advisor to the Prime Minister, but also as the head of the Ethiopian Development Research Institute, we've worked closely with them, and they have made a major investment in capacity strengthening. And you can see a certificate ceremony there. On the side, we have Ethiopian researchers who took part in this training, and they ultimately were all able to present papers at this major conference in Ethiopia, the Economics Association, and we have helped support some of the training on that. The bottom left, you have a ceremony celebrating the end of the course. You think this distinguished man giving this little speech is the professor. No, he's the student. The professor is Emily Schmidt, training on GIS. But Alamayu, PhD, Oxford University, a key researcher in Ethiopia, has made a huge difference over a decade plus, working with IFPRI, working with others on the Productive Safety Net program, and now on analysis of impact of major ag investments and other policies in Ethiopia. And finally, I'm happy to say that the program continues. And you can see all these handsome people. I wish the slide were bigger, but we have Bart Minton and the team in Addis. And again, what's really important here is to have that long-term engagement, working with these institutions, working with these people over time, building capacity, and doing solid research and analysis. Thank you.